Welcome to the podcast. My guest today is Agnes Watkinson, co-founder of NextGen Professional, a recruitment and mentorship community that not only places workers in junior roles, but has them complete a year-long leadership program with seminars and one-to-one coaching. Agnes is also a sought-after guest speaker, and I'm grateful to be talking with her today about what you need to know about working with a recruiter. Agnes, to kick this off, I want to read something from a subreddit I found called Recruiting Hell, which has over 100,000 members. I picked up this quote here in all caps. I hate recruiters. They suck. All of them. Greedy vultures preying on the desperate and unemployed. And I removed the swearing from that quote. Agnes Watkinson, okay. what comes to mind when you hear that quote?
It's pretty common. I mean, I'm actually not terribly surprised that that is something you've come across. I mean, it sounds a little more vulgar and crass than maybe some people have put it to my organization or some areas I've read, but that's pretty accurate.
And why do you think it's accurate? So there are some things about recruiters in terms of people's bad experiences that seem to be quite common. What might that be?
You know, it's like any other industry. There's different grades and different quality of individuals, and there's different grades and qualities of companies. So we're not unique in that prospect. We just happen to deal with human capital, which means, you know, our names and our reputations might get out there a little faster. But it's the same thing with any industry. You're going to have good people, you're going to have bad people.
I think that's fair. So for you, what might be some common myths that people have about recruiters, and maybe you could debunk a few of them?
Yeah, one comment that I get quite a bit is recruiting is an easy job. And I mean, if you knew what we had to go through, it's not easy at all. Most recruiters are contingent recruiters, which basically means that we're not getting paid for the work that we're doing until we've actually signed, sealed, and delivered a candidate over to a company. So we're working for $0 until we make a placement, if we make a placement. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to real estate. You know, a real estate agent can take a family to 20, 30 houses. I don't know how many houses. And then that family can turn around later on and say, sorry, you know, we went elsewhere. And that real estate agent wouldn't get the commission. So it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to make the sale, so to speak. And that's why a lot of the times it seems easy, or it seems like our commissions are really high for what we're doing.
Interesting. So what types of recruiters are there? I tend to think of, you know, an executive recruitment firm. That's the first thing that comes to mind, but I think there are a few different kinds.
Yeah, and that is definitely one type of recruitment firm. An executive recruitment firm specifically works on executive level. So they're more across different industries. They're not industry specific, but they work with upper level management and then a lot of interim type management. Mm-hmm. You'll have contingent recruiters or headhunters, which is what my firm does. And they're either generalists or they work industry specific, and they are contingent, meaning we get paid upon the contract signed of a candidate. Okay. And then there is corporate recruiters or internal recruiters, and they typically work for one organization, usually larger, mid to larger size companies, and they do talent acquisition, another word for recruitment, within one organization.
Okay, so as a headhunter, as yourself falling under that category, it's to me a term, kind of like you said at the beginning, where like marketer or event planner or recruiter generally, someone can just put up a sign and say, "Hey, I'm a headhunter, I'm a recruiter," and it sounds like that leads to a lot of the frustration in the business industry when they encounter so-called recruiters. So what might be some, call them red flags, that people should look at when they're approached by someone who claims to be a legitimate recruiter?
Yeah, I can't say I've personally come across this, but I do find there is a high rotation with recruiters in different organizations. And I do think a lot of the time when a corporation is hiring a recruiter, they're wooed with the thought of this high commission. But I think then when they realize how hard the process is, and again, if you're a headhunter and a contingency hunter or contingency recruiter, you're eating what you kill. What that actually means is you're not getting paid until the end. And that pressure leads to a lot of recruiters leaving the field because, it's ups and downs with payments, like any commission-based role. So it's not a job for everyone. I would say if you're looking for a good recruiter and you want to get past the red flags, look for someone who's been in the industry for a really long time. They have a network on LinkedIn, which is a professional networking platform. And look for someone who probably communicates to the industry, whether it's through periodicals or again through social media platforms. You want dedication and loyalty from and longevity and loyalty from a recruiter.
That's great. And I think based on what I read in that recruiting hell subreddit, I think another one is making sure that the recruiter actually knows your industry and knows about the job that you're applying for. That's something that surprisingly hasn't been the case with many people's experiences.
I would have to put a caveat in there. Just because they're a technical recruiter does not mean they know your industry. When I was working at a larger organization, there would be people who came in, they'd spend a couple of weeks training in IT, for instance, and all of a sudden they're an expert IT recruiter. I don't know how much I believe in that. I do believe in a recruiter who may have come from that industry and therefore understands that industry and can say, I'm more expert in this area, this niche.
Okay. So you mentioned LinkedIn earlier. Is that for you the place to be if someone wants to be discovered by a recruiter or to find one? Is this the ultimate Rolodex now for LinkedIn for the recruitment industry, or are we putting all our eggs in this one basket being LinkedIn?
So there are multiple baskets, but as of right now, in my opinion, it is the largest one. 90%, I think, of recruiters and hiring managers will go to LinkedIn to search for a candidate that they're potentially thinking about hiring. If you're looking to connect with recruiters on LinkedIn, definitely there's a lot of advanced tools that you can utilize on the LinkedIn platform. Right. And that can help you direct your search to a recruiter specifically in your area, and also help you, I think, figure out what direction you want to go with the individual that you want to help guide your career path along the way.
All right. So going a little deeper on LinkedIn, because it is the place to be. I saw recently it was a woman who was she had some kind of business position. And she said, I'm changing my LinkedIn profile photo. And the timing was right, because I was thinking about how I feel like profile photos on LinkedIn have sort of gone the way of passport photos now. It's just a nicely lit, not frankly that inspiring image of someone, I guess, smiling. Or posing in a professional way. And I'm wondering, the more time we spend on LinkedIn and the more it kind of is going this social media way, you see a lot of stuff on there that's not always businessy.
I actually have a very strong opinion on this.
Okay.
So LinkedIn is a professional platform, so please keep images of your siblings, or not sibling, your kids, your spouses, your dogs. Keep them out of that. I do believe in a typical headshot, like a corporate, I call it bust up. Wear a nice jacket. It's a professional platform. You want people to take you seriously. I do find if an individual does not have a photo on their LinkedIn, it usually correlates with an incomplete LinkedIn profile. So those two in my mind now are correlated. Right. So that kind of makes me think, is this individual tech savvy, which might not be fair. But if you are looking to complete your LinkedIn profile and make it as professional as possible, just a quick Google search on what a corporate headshot might look like. And, our phones are amazing now. You can just do it on your phone, crop it, get a couple of filters in there, you're good to go.
I agree. Don't use your passport photo.
No, they're so sterile looking. And it's odd. I don't know how I feel about a passport photo, but I do get them on resumes a lot. But please don't use that on your LinkedIn.
Right, and I'm with you. Honestly, you know, I'd like to see a bit more variety in the headshot, but for sure keep the extracurricular activities off of it, and let's make LinkedIn, you know, a professional place for professionals to talk about professional things in a professional way. We'll see if it continues. So how about being an ideal candidate for a recruiter? So one, have a good headshot for sure, but what are some other things, especially those who are new to the workforce, that they should keep in mind to help them be attractive to the investment of time that a recruiter would put into them?
Yeah, and you just said it, you know, it's the investment of time. Again, going back to how easy recruitment is, on average, to turn around one role at a minimum is about 8 weeks. And I don't think people realize that. So that's everything from finding you and the mass pool of people we need to interview, all the way down to coordinating interviews, getting the screenings, getting the interviewings, getting the contracts negotiated. Like, there's a lot of time that I spend and my firm spends connecting with our candidates. And number one thing we're looking for, aside from the resume, which is one component, is be accessible. If we call you, please call us back. If we're emailing you, please email us back, because 1 day delay means we could lose that commission. So we're going to be on top of you, and it might feel like pressure, but it's because it really is a time game based off of how fast we can get you into the process and through the process. But the process can be drawn out 8 weeks, maybe even 12 weeks, depending on the role and how senior it is. So to be an ideal recruiter, or ideal candidate for a recruiter, I would have to say, you know, make sure your resume is tip-top shape. There's tons of templates out on Google, and there's a lot of websites that help with that, as well as be accessible to your recruiter. You are not going to be a grade A candidate in their book if your resume is amazing and you talk amazing and you present yourself amazing, but you don't pick up the phone.
Right.
If you can't coordinate an interview, we can't make it work.
Yeah, no, I'm imagining, you know, it's a two-way street, but you're both actually facing the same direction, going and should be going at the same speed and communicating along the way. So
You just said it, actually. I'm sorry. Two-way street. You know, I can sell you this mug, and the mug has no decision to say, no, I don't want to be sold to John. Recruitment is completely different. We have to sell to different people on two very different ideas. So that communication is incredibly important for us to ensure it's a proper sale. And that's honestly, at the end of the day, what it is. A placement is a sale. Yep. But we have to ensure proper communication, because we're working with a two-way sale on this. And I think people forget that.
I think this has been great advice. Can you talk a bit more about NextGen Professional and the niche that you've carved out in the sort of skilled trades construction sector, which is a booming sector, which I know about personally, but also there is a real need for good recruiters that also help those new recruits get the soft skills, the human skills that will help them, you know, stay in their job. And can you say more about that?
Yeah, so NextGen was built on a very altruistic philosophy, and so we're making it work. We have 3 pillars. The first pillar, I would say, is awareness, and exactly to your point, everyone knows there's shortages in our industry, and there are phenomenal careers out there in construction. There's a bit of a stigma around what a construction career actually means for an individual. So we do a lot of work with community, with schools, with post-secondary. I mean, anyone we can get our hands on that has an audience. We do a lot of community support and outreach to let people know how great of a career it could be, and really guide them along those pathways, because there's a lot of different entry points, and we want people to know where they are. So that's our pillar 1. We call it the awareness pillar. Pillar 2 is recruitment. So that is our bread and butter in terms of how we get our revenue. We do trade-based roles, which are volume roles, all the way through to co-ops, juniors, intermediates, senior, executive level individuals. So we do all forms of recruitment, and we work with our companies. This is fairly unique. I've never come across it before with other firms. But we do a lot of work with Employment Ontario, Employment Alberta, to wherever the employment centers are, to get our clients subsidies, like wage subsidies back or grants back to cover the cost of using our firm. So we try to help as much as we can in terms of financial compensation. And our final pillar is the leadership and coaching, which is, again, fairly unique. So we work with our clients and give them leadership training at an intermediate to senior level to ensure that their rock stars or their up and coming individuals can get expedited into a management role. Again, because of the shortages, there might not be people to hire, but let's look internally. What can we do internally to grow your own people? And we also do executive level coaching as well. So we have the 3 pillars, which kind of create a holistic program for our clients.
No, I think it's great. I love especially this idea of providing something that smaller, medium-sized companies, they're too busy building and may not have the time to put in that training program. But it's a real necessity. I love, Agnes, that you talked today really about the business of recruiting. I like that you didn't sugarcoat it. I like you didn't say, well, it's not, it's not always about, a transactional nature. I mean, you're honest and upfront about that. And a good recruiter is honest and upfront about that with their client and the company that they're working for. We're all about trying to, or I would say, you would say it's all about trying to make sure that companies get the right people and that the right people get into the best companies, the companies that are right to them. And that involves having that sense of communication, honesty, and professionalism. And especially if you need that at a younger age, companies like yours provide that, I think, an excellent service. I want to thank you very much, Agnes.
Thank you, John.
So to learn more about NextGen Professional, go to nextgenprofessional.com. You can also find Agnes Watkinson on her LinkedIn. Just search her and you can find her there. Thanks everyone for listening and watching, and see you next time.